Welcome to the Pat White Show. Let's get into it.
This is Sparta!
Well, the city of New Haven has just had its first informational event involving the new potential casino that could be relocated into New Haven. Now, I use the word relocated because this casino already exists. It's down in southern Indiana near Cincinnati. And frankly, it's not doing that well simply because other casinos have been built in the Cincinnati area. So they're saying, hey, let's move our casino from the Ohio area, the Ohio City area, and let's move it up to the northeastern Indiana area, i.e. the New Haven area. Now, according to the meeting they had, they have the option to purchase over 65 acres on the southeast corner of US 24 and 469. Now, that's outside of the city of New Haven temporarily. What I understand is the city of New Haven is currently looking at annexing that area into the city of New Haven, so that property would not necessarily be a county property, it would be a city property, 65 and a half acres. Now, the company says they're going to work in two phases. First phase is to build the casino and all the things that go with the casino, the restaurant and those kind of things, and the bars and the food courts and everything else for a casino. It's going to cost about $250 million. And it's going to employ close to 2,000 people because you've got a big construction job. Now, this project's going to take up to maybe 2.5, 3 years to get built. But in that time, a lot of people are going to have jobs, construction jobs. Just something to think about. Then once the first phase is done, the second phase is going to be the hotel and all the other things that go with a hotel and concerts and concert halls and what have you. Another $250 million. They're saying the entire cost is going to be roughly $300 million or $500 million. Now, here's the big point. Discussion has been had about, well, do we want to have this in New Haven? And frankly, they're saying, well, do we need a referendum? Now, the discussion is, should it be a New Haven referendum? Should it be an Allen County referendum? Well, if New Haven does, in fact, annex that 65 and a half acres into New Haven, that's a city property at that point. And the city of New Haven, they want to do a referendum on it to decide if they want it in their city. That's their call, and if they want to do it. The idea of saying we're going to have a full referendum in Allen County to let everybody in Allen County determine what goes on in the city of New Haven, there are those who are going to object to that very strenuously because they're saying, hey, you can't tell our city what to do. Now, it is a casino, and that affects a lot of things going on. There's a lot of money to be brought in, and a lot of that money would go to the city of New Haven, the East Allen County School District. They're going to get a lot of the money. Yes, some of the money is going to be floating around to other areas in the city, but this is going to be a big draw for New Haven. Now, would I like to hear what the chief of police of New Haven has to say about this? Because we know what can happen when casinos show up. And the mayor, city council, they've got to make a decision. I understand that. But it's going to come down to potentially a referendum. And who should hold the referendum? Should it be the city of New Haven or the county of Allen? Well, that's a discussion point. But right now, I think the city of New Haven, they take precedence because if it's their land, their city, it's their responsibility. And they're the ones who are going to have to deal with the problems that may or may not come up. Just a thought. Now you know what's happening involving the casino. Will there be a referendum? And who will be conducting it? And who will be participating in it? Another good point. Something for you to know about. Will we get a casino in the Fort Wayne area? Well, it could happen. Let's just wait and see. That's all I've got for you right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, it's just been 9 weeks. 9 weeks since the first attempt on the life of Donald J. Trump. Now we've had a second attempt. Happened down in Florida at his country club. Here's the part that strikes me as a little bit weird, and maybe you can fill me in on some of the blank spots because I'm concerned about something. The gentleman who was arrested was Ryan Wesley Ruth, age 58. He's from Hawaii, and apparently had some sort of business over in Hawaii, owned a couple of trucks, earns about $3,000 a month. My question is, how did he fly all the way from Hawaii to Miami, Florida on $3,000 a month? Okay, it ain't necessarily too expensive to fly from one city to the other, especially across the pond, across the United States. I understand that. But Mr. Ruth, or Ralph, or what do you call him, he's a convicted felon. He's had charges against him for a machine gun and a bunch of other charges. And when he was arrested by the sheriff's department, he was actually amused. Well, it's sort of funny. And his son says, well, my dad hates Trump, but he voted for him in 2016, but was unhappy in 2020. That's what his son says. But here's where I'm having a problem. Trump was on a golfing event at his country club, Trump International. In the Secret Service, that's an OTR. It's a otherwise event. It's not a scheduled event. It's a non-scheduled event. It's a special event. Sort of like if he's driving around, he says, okay, I want to go to an ice cream store and buy ice cream for people. That's not an event planned. They got to hustle and do a lot of stuff, okay? But this was not a planned event. Most planned events are scheduled. There's meetings. There's all, like they had in Pennsylvania, although that didn't go too well, obviously. Someone tried to kill him. But this case, it was an OTR, non-scheduled event. Now, how did Mr. Ruth know he was going to be at that golf course at that day and that time? Someone want to explain that one to me? Because I haven't figured that one out yet. How did he know? That wasn't a scheduled event. Is there a mold somewhere that we don't know about? Is there a mold in the Secret Service that we don't know about? Somebody knows something, passing something along? Is there something happening? I don't know. I'm just saying something ain't right, folks. Something is real bad wrong. Now, speaking of the Secret Service, do you know the Secret Service used to be part of the Treasury Department, has been since it's pretty much started? Somewhere in either the Trump administration or the Biden administration, they were suddenly shifted over the Secret Service to Homeland Security. Homeland Security, this is Mr. Mayorkas, the one who goes in front of Congress and gets into a spat with a congressman, doesn't tell him anything, says the border's closed. That's the guy. The guy they wanted to impeach that didn't. Why is the Secret Service under Homeland Security and not like the Treasury Department like they used to be, have been for, since they started? I don't know. Secret Service is down 1,500 agents, 1,500. Why? Why don't people want to be in the Secret Service? Why have people left the Secret Service? Someone explain that one to me. They don't have enough people. They're not doing a good job with what they've got. And now we have the senior members of the Butler event have all retired saying, you can't touch me, and I don't have to testify, and I'm not going to. What is going on? What is the Congressional Committee going to find? And Mr. Routh is facing double attempted murder. But where did he get that AK-47 that had the serial numbers scraped off? I mean, those are altered guns, folks. Where do you get that? He didn't bring it with him from Hawaii. No. Where did he get the vehicle? Where did that happen? Where did he get the money to live? All these questions I'm asking, and nobody seems to know. Will we ever find out? I'm not sure. But I'll tell you right now, it strikes me that there's a plot out there trying to kill Donald Trump for whatever reason. We've reached that stage in America, folks, and that ain't good. Just saying what I'm seeing. You can decide for yourself what you think. Right now, that's all I've got. Good luck. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, if you've been following the news lately, I want to tell you about a little something going on in our neighboring state. That would be Ohio. Now, this all came up at the presidential debate when Donald Trump started talking about a problem going on in Springfield, Ohio, where Haitians have been accused in some cases of eating animals, cats, whatever. And body cam footage from police in that area have shown people are saying that's exactly what's going on. Now, during the debate, David Mears says, well, we contacted the city manager of Springfield, Ohio, and he has no credible evidence of anything like that going on. And remember that term. They're using the term credible evidence. Credible is an out word. It allows them to say whatever they want, saying, we don't have credible evidence, which puts them off the hook. They may know what's going on, but until someone else verifies it, they're going to say, no, we don't have any credible evidence. Now, let me tell you what's happening in Springfield, Ohio. Springfield, as you know, is the city that had the harvester plant, where when we closed down our harvester plant, they went to Springfield. A lot of folks did to work over there based on the union contract. Well, here's what's happened. Springfield, Ohio has a population of roughly 58,000 people. Since 2020, the United States government has imported under what is called temporary protected status what amounts to is close to 20,000. You heard me right. Between approximately 20,000 Haitians have been flown from their country into the United States and parked in Springfield, Ohio. Town of 58,000, you bring in 20,000, that's increasing the population by a third, and it's created havoc. Because these people in Haiti are not, they're not sophisticated. They're basically from an undeveloped country, or underdeveloped, let's use that term, just to be kind. An underdeveloped country where they do things you and I would possibly not even think about doing, including eating animals. Yeah, hate to say it, but Haiti is a mess. I mean, even the government says don't go to Haiti. It's a problem. The gangs have taken over the country. There's no control. It's absolute anarchy in that country. So we bring 20,000 people into Springfield, and here's the worst part. That's what the people are saying. It's overloaded the city. The Haitians don't speak English, and yet they're given a paperwork they take to a driver's bureau, and they're given the okay to drive. They can't drive. They're driving cars, running into everything you can think of. People in Springfield are tired of this. They're done with it. They're telling the governor, hey, you need to do something about it. Problem is, Governor DeWine his family has a charity in Haiti that honors the fact of his daughter being killed in a car accident. And all of these people were brought up to the United States under temporary protected status. And that means nothing. It ain't temporary, and they are protected. They ain't going to leave. So, people are saying, hey, it's overwhelmed our hospitals. It's overwhelmed our schools. The teachers don't even speak that language. And DeWine is saying, well, we're going to give $2.5 million. Well, now he's had to do something even worse. He's sending in massive amounts of Ohio State troopers, and they can't do this forever, folks, into Springfield, try to get this thing under control. It is losing control in Springfield, Ohio. Why? Because we took in 20,000 Haitian refugees who are not civilized, or at least most of them are not. They live in a different culture than you and I do. They're different than we are. How's this going to end up? I don't know. But this is the government who brought it in. This is the administration who brought it in. And yet they're telling the state of Ohio, which is a red state, by the way, hey, guess what you get? You get the Haitians. That's where we are, folks. That's where our country has gone. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if we can get it back. I feel bad for the folks in Springfield. They're suffering big time. And because the governor says we don't have any credible evidence, that's the word, credible. It allows them to get out and say it doesn't exist because we don't have credible evidence. That's how they play the game, folks. Something you didn't know, but now you know. And that's all I have for you right now. See ya. All right, if I could take a moment of your day to dispel some myths, rumors, if you will, or flat-on truths, depending on how you want to rate them. You know, we've been hearing stories about things going on in Springfield, Ohio, about animals being eaten, And suddenly in the media, you're hearing, oh, that's nothing more than rumors. That's nothing more than lies. That's nothing more than uncredible things. You had the city manager of Springfield, Ohio, saying, we have no credible evidence. You hear the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, saying, we have no credible evidence that anything like that is happening. Well, let me give you some evidence that I found out today from a resident of Springfield. Turns out that one of my dear friends, a very dear friend who I've known and trust, used to be a very big-time executive in this town, is from Springfield, Ohio. And he called me today and he says, you know what? He said, I've been hearing all that same stuff and I've been wondering about it too. So I called my sister who lives in Springfield. And he said, I called her and said, hey, is this stuff going on that I've heard about? She said, it most certainly is. And we have been trying to get the city council to do something. We've talked to the police. And there are police body cams out there that have been shown on social media showing people actually being charged with this stuff and other police officers telling the body cam wearing police officer, shut it off. We don't want people to see this. This sister of a person I know very, very well said it's happening. And she said they have a park in Springfield called Snyder Park. I don't know where it is, but this is what they told me. Snyder Park used to have all sorts of ducks and geese. Okay, I spelled it wrong. Ducks and geese. She said the ducks are gone. The ducks that are always there. You know, geese move. They go north, south, whatever geese do. But ducks stay. She said all the ducks in Snyder Pond are gone. She said, you go downtown Springfield, it's very nice. It looks very pretty and very beautiful. But you go out into the suburbs, especially the lower rental suburbs, and there's 3 and 4 families living in single houses, and the landlords are collecting 3 or 4 times the rent. It's a greed thing. Sorry, but it is. But my friend said he's got another member of his family who happens to be in a wayward house. Okay, that's where they could use. Said one of the other residents came in carrying a small dog under his arm. Gentleman was a Haitian gentleman carrying a small dog. 2 days later, the dog was gone. Where it went to, he doesn't know. The guy didn't have a dog in the first place. Suddenly carries in a small dog under his arm, and the dog disappears. What happened to it, I don't know. But there is video out there of police cams of Springfield police seeing exactly what's going on. And yet the mayor denies it, says, I have no credible evidence. Credible. Remember that word. Credible is somebody else got to verify it. I don't want to talk about it. Mike DeWine, governor, there's no credible evidence. I want to deny it because I don't want to admit what's going on. Folks, this is somebody who is from Springfield, called his sister in Springfield, named places, named things going on. These are residents seeing it. So if you're seeing it on TV saying this is all a lie, it's all nothing more than conjecture, it's a conspiracy theory, this is coming from a resident who lives there. Now, I know who it is. I know my friend is, but I'm not going to reveal my friend. I'm going to maintain his identity as being secret. But I tell you what, I trust what he says because I know where he's from and I know what he's done. Just saying. Now you know a little bit more than you knew before. Now go forth and think about it. So if you see it on TV, someone says, no, it's conspiracy, it's make-believe, it's not real. Comes from a genuine resident of Springfield who says, oh, yes, it is. And I know who it is. Just saying. So all I've got for you right now. That's it for now, folks. Be safe out there, and we'll see you.
Coming up next.
Well, a brand new national survey has just been released asking folks, why are you going to vote? Now, I realized a few months back I talked about the main issues, but this is something different. This deals with why people, those who are planning on voting, are going to the voting booth, their reasons. And they broke it down by party. And in the Republican Party, the main things people are going to, the reason they're going to vote to the polls is because of the cost of food, the cost of fuel, the cost of housing, i.e. things like mortgage rates and rent, those kind of things. And then finally, the last thing they're talking about is immigration. Those are the four main things that are driving people on the Republican side to go to the polls in November. And it's only coming up, 40-some days from now? It's not very far away. And somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. But in the Republicans, it came down to food, fuel, housing, and immigration. And that's why they're going to the polls to vote. So they asked some of the Democrats, all right, you folks are going to the polls. Why are you going to the polls? What are the main issues that you're going on that you want to vote? 35%, a little more than a third, said the reason they're going to the polls and voting is because of abortion rights. Now, even though abortion is legal in around the United States in states that allow it, because in the Constitution it says, but ain't in the Constitution, it goes to the states, and obviously this one does. Some states are outlawing it, some states are saying it's okay. It just depends. Now, they want to have a national, apparently a national abortion, sort of like it was back in the Roe v. Wade days. Now, that's 36%. Overwhelming 65%, and Democrats said the reason they are going to the polls is to beat the Republicans and win. I went, what? That's exactly why they're going to the polls. Not caring about anything else. They just want to win. Now, I realize everybody wants to win. That's a concept that we all go and say, yeah, my team wants to win, beat your team. I understand that. But now we're dealing with the life of this country. And if you just want to win, what does that mean? You're willing to say, hey, I'll let the place burn down to ashes and govern what's left, the ashes? I don't know. I'm just telling you what the new survey said. We now know why Republicans are going to the polls, and apparently now we know why Democrats are going to the polls. It's either abortion or the majority say they want to win. It's where we are, America. That's the way things stand. Not a pretty picture in my world. Not a pretty picture at all. That's all I have for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, if you have been following the political run-up, as they say, the waiting for the presidential election in November, but we have the campaigns running, both sides. Well, here's the deal. Since the campaign started, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have given 65 press conferences. I mean, you want to talk, they'll give you answers to anything you want to ask about. Been very, very open, talk about anything. They go on every program you can think about. But Kamala, well, Ms. Harris has only done 14. And most of those are almost like real quick with the media, not for the general public to see. There's only been 2 in particular. And one was done recently by a Philadelphia TV station, where the first thing the reporter asked, hey, what are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do to bring down make the economy better? And her same line she repeated was, well, you know, I grew up in a middle-class family. That's the same thing she said when she was interviewed the last time. And the same thing on the debate. Well, Hillary Rodham Clinton has now come out and said, guess what? Hey, she doesn't have to do interviews. She doesn't have to talk about her plan. And if you want to see anything about her, go to her website and take a look at her plan. Well, if you go there, it's nothing but Biden stuff. I mean, that's what the Biden administration, that's all Biden stuff. Now, what has she got going on? Hillary says, hey, she's a woman. She'll tell you when she gets elected what she's going to do. Right now, she's thinking about things. But she doesn't have to tell you anything. This seems to be the mentality of this particular campaign. Just try to sell it in commercials on TV. Just try to get the great unwashed masses to say, oh, I like what she's thinking. I like the idea of moving ahead. And I hate Donald Trump. So, hey, a woman, let's vote for her. Well, you never asked someone, what about her policies? What do you think she's going to do? And Hillary's now saying, she don't have to say nothing. she can get elected strictly on the fact of people saying she's a woman. Vote for her. We've never had a woman president. Shame on you if you don't. That's what Hillary's saying. She doesn't have to tell anything about her program because she's thinking about it. She's not doing anything. She's giving everything consideration. That's what this is all about. Now, will she eventually say anything? Well, we've only got a few weeks before the election. My guess is probably not. So now you know what's happening. Hillary says she doesn't have to say anything. She's a woman. Elect her anyway. She'll tell you after she gets elected. That's the game they're playing, and you know what? They might win. Just saying. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, the big talk is the election coming up in around 6 weeks, and all the folks are traveling to those hotbed states. The big states that are going to make a difference in the election. Because it's not about the national vote, it's about winning the electoral vote, and they figure the hot money states are the ones, the Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. They're talking about those states. Those are the big states that are going to determine who wins the presidency. Well, it turns out Donald Trump has some new warriors working for him. And you know what? I'd be kind of interested in seeing those warriors talk to me. Not that they would, but if they were to come to Indiana and have a rally, it's a rally I might kind of want to go take a look at. Now, who are they? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. That's right. RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are now a tag team going out to promote, and they're schlepping, if you will, for Donald Trump all around into the big states. States that you got to have to win the election. Now, here's the deal. Donald Trump has been called Superman, okay? Let's go back to the 60s, all the stuff we used to watch. So Superman on TV. There weren't many superheroes on TV back in those days. You had Superman, and we'll give that to Donald Trump. But we also had Batman, remember? Remember Batman back in the 60s? Batman and Robin? Well, you know what? I am thinking that RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are now the new Batman and Robin. That's right. You got Superman, Batman, and Robin. Now, you have to have an evil foe. Now, I remember Robin Hood. Remember all the movies, or not Robin Hood, but Batman. Remember all the Batman movies with all the different characters he had to go against, like Joker, Penguin, Mad Hatter, Mr. Freeze, the Riddler, Two-Face. Well, we need an enemy. And I have decided that the enemy for the new Batman and Robin will be the Cackler. That's right, going against the Cackler. And we all know who she is. So that's the new mortal enemy. And that will be the enemy for RFK and Tulsi Gabbard to be going against. If they happen to come to a town where you are, a state where you are, I don't know about you, but I'd kind of like to hear what they have to say. I'm impressed with them because Donald Trump says these former Democrats figuring out that party has gone to heck in a handbasket. And now they're working for Donald Trump and will probably be on his cabinet somewhere in there. That's just my guess. But there it is. Batman and Robin, RFK and Tulsi Gabbard going against the evil Cackler. Their new enemy on the stage right now up to the elections in November. Something new, something different. I thought I'd fill you in. Figured you might want to know. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, in the presidential election, everybody running will promise you anything. The old saying, promise of anything, but give them our pish is probably the buzzword to be used. But Donald Trump has come up with a new thing here. It's kind of interesting. Remember, he said, let's take away taxing tips. Because a lot of service industry workers, they're saying, hey, this is pretty cool. Getting rid of tax on tips? It's a giant pain to a lot of those folks. And he's saying, let's get rid of that. Well, ultimately, Kamala Harris came out and said, oh, yeah, let's get rid of tax on tips. All right, fine, you're going to steal something, you steal something. But Donald Trump came up with a new one. And this one I kind of like. He said, hey, you will pay no taxes on overtime. Now think of that. Working people out there, yes, you work overtime, you get time and a half. But a lot of that's eaten up by the taxes. So if you're getting time and a half, 25% of, say, let's say you get $100, $75 goes to taxes. If you're getting time and a half, that's $150. They're getting 25% of, say, $150. Do the math on that. What's 25% of that? It's a big chunk of it. So you earn overtime, you end up more taxes for it. So Trump is saying, here's what the deal is. I want to see if the House and Senate will agree is that you work overtime, you are not taxed on overtime pay. Now, wouldn't that be an incentive to get more people to work? Think about that, man. Anything over 40 hours, I'm not getting taxed on. Hey, boss, I want to work over 40 hours. You know, a lot of people hate working over 40 hours. But in the real workaday world, the average person, the average schlub who's out there doing what they do, and the average blue-collar person, you tell them no income taxes on anything they work over 40 hours, you just might get people wanting to go, you know what? I'm going to work over 40 hours. Will that work in Congress? Well, it's anybody's guess. Will taking the taxes off tips that people pay? Anybody's guess. I don't know. But it is a rather interesting and unique idea to say to people, hey, you're not going to pay taxes on time that you work overtime. Yeah, you're going to pay in your 40-hour week, but anything you work overtime or you're getting time and a half, you're getting free, clear money. That, my friends, could be a very big impetus to a lot of folks in the workaday world to stand there and go, yeah, boss, I'll be happy to work overtime. And wouldn't that create the increased productivity? Just saying. Can't guarantee it's ever going to happen because you know how government is. But it is a rather unique idea, thanks to Donald Trump. No taxes on overtime pay. Now you know. That's all I got. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, there's a big case in front of the Indiana Supreme Court which will affect many county employees, or at least elected county employees. Here's the deal. A gentleman was elected to a position in the state of Indiana, and it's a position that really doesn't require a whole lot of time when you're elected to the position because he spends about 9 hours a week in this elected position. Now, he felt that because he's an elected employee in the state of Indiana and a council or a county employee, that he is entitled to health insurance. Now, the county board says, no, you only work 9 hours a week. You're not entitled under the federal laws. So the Board of Appeals, or the Court of Appeals, rather, ruled and said, nope, the county was right. They made the proper decision. You're only working 9 hours a week. You should not be getting health insurance provided by the county. So what Mr. Houck did, his name is Keith Houck, H-O-H-U-C-K, Keith Huck maybe, possibly. And he said, okay, I'm taking it to the Indiana Supreme Court. Now, this is important because it depends on what the Supreme Court says. This could determine whether every county in the state of Indiana that has people who are elected into what amount to part-time positions, if they in fact would be granted health insurance. Why is that important? Because taxpayers, that's you and I, we pay for those things. And that has to be figured out somewhere in a budget, paying for someone's health care, and health care is getting pretty expensive, let's be honest. So, Mr. Houck said, I'm taking the Supreme Court, and that's where it is right now. And it depends on how they rule. Now, if they follow the Court of Appeals and said, nope, the county gets to do this, they make the decisions, 9 hours a week is not full-time. If you're a full-time employee, that's one thing. But in his position, he only serves 9 hours a week. Keep that in mind. So, now that you know this, if you know somebody who's elected in the county who's not getting health insurance, maybe, just maybe, if the Supreme Court rules in the way that Mr. Houck likes, he could be getting health insurance for working 9 hours a week in elected positions. Is that fair to taxpayers? Is that right? Well, it just depends on what the Supreme Court says. Court of Appeals says, no, the county makes those rules. Supreme Court, they could change the rules. Just telling you what's going on in the state of Indiana. Supreme Court could rule for county officials with less than 9 hours a week of work, getting health care paid for by the taxpayer. That would be you. Something coming up soon. Just thought I'd fill you in. That's all I have for right now, folks. Hope you're having a good day. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, what do you say we chat about state politics, namely the governor's office? Yes, we have a race for governor here in the state of Indiana. Now, you know you have Braun running on the Republican side, but Democrat is a lady by the name of Jennifer McCormick. And I've seen some of her commercials. Well, she has put a new policy on the table that she thinks may get her more people thinking about voting for her. And here's what it is. Ms. McCormick is saying, I want to legalize marijuana as governor. That's what I'm going to do. That's what she's saying, folks. Here we have a governor candidate going out and saying, I want to legalize marijuana. Now, why is she saying that? Well, one, she wants to get elected. But two, she's saying, look, Indiana, we're an island in the stream. You go to Ohio, you go to Michigan, you go to Illinois, and even down to Kentucky, they have marijuana laws that allow marijuana. Now, in some cases, it's medical marijuana, like Kentucky. But if you want to go to Ohio, you want to go to Michigan, pick some up, I guess you can do that. It's probably illegal, but people are doing it, let's be honest. She's saying, hey, we're missing out here. Let's do this. And that's exactly what she's proposing in her platform. And what she wants to do is establish a commission, a cannabis commission, and that's a group of people to regulate the whole thing going on, the industry stuff, the licensing, the compliance, all the other standards that need to be done. You got to have a group, running the organization. Then she wants to establish, first off, the medical marijuana industry. Now, that's fine. Kentucky has that. Other states have done that. I've seen it down in Florida. They start out with medical marijuana because there are people who use medical marijuana, and it does serve a purpose. Trust me, I've seen it myself, so I know it works. All right, once that is established, then her plan is to say, now we're going to make it adult use recreational marijuana. Really? So, go on over and buy yourself a pack of weed, whatever it is. And the stuff they sell today, I understand, is a lot more powerful than back in the 60s and 70s or whatever it was back then. This stuff is really high-tech stuff and high-powerful stuff. And she wants to have that legalized so that that the average person, the average adult, can go get it. Now, she's saying, why do do this? Well, she said, because we're missing out on a lot of moolah. She's saying $172 million. That's a lot of money, folks. And it's unregulated, and she wants to get things regulated, control the how this is moving, and why be Indiana the only state not to have it? Well, that's fine. Mike Braun says that'll be great as governor, but the trouble is you got to get the Senate and to pass it. They have to have super majorities to do it, and the governor willing to sign it. Right now, I do not believe the House or the Senate is willing to have a super majority to say, hey, let's make marijuana legal in the Hoosier state. Sorry, I don't believe that's going to happen. Yes, it's a money machine, but I'll tell you what. Police officers will tell you this. They pull somebody over, and there's no way right now to test for someone who's on marijuana. Alcohol, yeah, you got the breathalyzer, you're blowing to that, they can test that. They haven't come up with a decent test yet. Yeah, they can do a blood test. Blood test can show if you got THC, marijuana in your system. But as far as being able to do it in the highway, I don't know of something that now exists. Maybe there does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'm just saying, for a safety standpoint, I'm really not in favor of it right now, just for that reason alone. But who's to say? Here's what's going on. Now you know. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, in case you haven't heard it, little problems happening with some of the Hezbollah folks over there in Lebanon. Now, the Hezbollah are supported by Iran, and they're basically the handmaidens for the Iranians, raining war onto the Israelis in Israel. So Hezbollah is doing the dirty work for Iran, and they've got hundreds of thousands of people on the border, waiting to do bad stuff, and they're raining rockets and do some bad things against Iran. Now, they're attacking Israel because they want Israel to stop fighting against the Hamas in Gaza, because they're their buddies and they don't want them hurt. But Israel's saying, no, we're going to do this whether you like it or not. Well, interesting thing just happened. A couple of days ago, they had a little problem with the Hezbollah in Jordan, or Lebanon rather. Here's what happened. Apparently, 6 months, 8 months ago, maybe closer to a year ago, the Hezbollah folks in Lebanon suddenly thought, we think the Israelis are tapping into our cell phones. Okay? Israelis are tapping into our cell phones. So somebody in the Hezbollah said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get rid of our cell phones, and we're all going to get pagers. Yeah, that way we can send messages out to you guys. You put them on your belt or you carry them in your pocket. We're going to do paging. That way the Israelis can't listen into what we're saying. We'll transmit these secret messages over the pagers. Okay. So they went out and contracted with a company based out of the, I think it was the Philippines, and then there was a Hungarian contract set up. And anyway, all these pagers were ordered for the folks in Hezbollah. At least the main players in Hezbollah. They got their pager. Everybody's walking around and got a pager. Well, a couple of days ago, suddenly a message came down. And the message was, boom. And guess what happened to all those pagers? They all simultaneously exploded. They blew up. Somebody, somehow, managed to put explosive charges into each of those pagers. When the right code was sent down, the telephones, knowing the code, then activated the explosive charge within the pager. Killed a number of people in Hezbollah, injured others. I think a child was killed. What a child's doing carrying a pager, I don't know. But anyway, and they said, "Oh, this is ghastly. It's terrible." Their groins were destroyed. Well, if you're carrying your pager down your pocket like that, that's what's going to happen when it blows up. Okay, so we know that. Well, guess what? Today, the Hezbollah were then using walkie-talkies, carrying these around that they ordered recently from some company, and carrying those around, and suddenly the walkie-talkies blew up. All right, what does this mean? It means you don't mess with the Israelis. You don't do that, because they will get you. And the Messad is most lethal, deadly group in the world. They do not play games. And now the Hezbollah are all upset at Israel. We'll get you back. We'll destroy you. And Israel is going, yeah, bring it on. Because now the Israelis have figured out we can take you out. And they did. This is what's happened. I want to pass that along to you just so you know the game that's being played. But the Messad in Israel are very, very adept at what they do. And when they get a plan together, and they got this entire plan together, took them a while. Remember, they had to get all the radios built and get all the stuff put in. Putting in a charge inside of a small radio, that takes some doing. And they did it. Now, just understand, you play the game, you pay the price. That's how it works. Israel against the Messad, or against the Hezbollah? Yep, they played the game. And right now, Israel 2, Hezbollah zip. And maybe more is coming. Just thought I'd pass that along to you. That's what I know. Hope you're having a pleasant day. Have a good one. And we'll see you.
Coming up next.
Well, aside from the fact that it is now fall is approaching, guess what else we're into? Another season. It's called the strike season. That's exactly what's happening. Looks like some of the big industries are going on strike. The biggest one, obviously, is the Boeing industry. People make the planes, make the ones with the doors that fall off, the spacecraft that can't bring anybody back in. Yeah, that's the company. Well, the machinists have gone on strike saying, hey, the deal Boeing is offering 25% rate increase for the machinist. And the employees said, no, I ain't taking it. They said, we want 40% and we want all the pension returned. Whatever those happen to be, that's what they want. So they are striking, and it isn't just affecting the Boeing company. It affects all the other properties, all the other companies that provide services and goods to Boeing. They don't make everything on the airplane. They bring, it's just in time. They get this from this company, this from another company. And this is going to put Boeing in a stop position, especially when they're working on a brand new aircraft getting ready to replace the 757, and I think it's called the 797, if memory serves me right. So Boeing is one on strike right now, but also some of the airlines are on strike. Flight attendants for one of the major airlines, they're going on strike also, saying, hey, you're giving us a 20% raise, but ain't enough. Now, why is everybody striking? Well, simple enough. When the inflation went up 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and the money, your money, started to become worth less, the people in the airline industry, the flight attendants, the Boeing folks, they said, hey, wait a minute. Our money is even worth less now than 4 years ago. They want it made up. This is just the tip of the iceberg. More of this is going to be coming down the pipe as more and more organizations, unions, and companies, they're going to say, hey, they're striking over there. We're going to strike too because we want to get made up for what happened because of the inflation. Now everybody's saying, well, the Fed is going to lower the interest rate. Hey, they may, quarter point. Hey, I mean, they could do it a half point. Don't know what they're going to do, but whatever they decide to do, it's not going to make up for the loss of the value of the dollar. That has occurred. That's why everything is skyrocketed up in inflation because the dollar is worth less. That's the problem, folks. That debt reduction act that Kamala Harris signed as the tiebreaker put $2.5 trillion into money into the place where we don't need any more money. I mean, your dollar's worth less. Something you need to know about economics, how it works. More strikes are coming, folks. Just get ready. Boeing, airlines, the tip of the iceberg. More is coming. That's all I got for you right now. Stay tuned because more is going to happen. That's it for now. See ya. Well, do you remember the old song by Harry Belafonte, the Banana Boat song, about the guys cutting down bananas and selling the bananas and getting the cost figured out and everything else? Well, let me tell you something. If you're a fan of bananas and other particular fruits, by October the 1st, they may start to become, well, sort of disappearing. And the reason is that there is an impending strike from the International Longshoremen's Union. That's about 45,000 workers on the East Coast of the Gulf Port area. Now, that's a whole bunch of different locations all around the East Coast and into the Gulf of Mexico. They handle about half the stuff that comes into the United States from around the world. Most of these include things like fruits. Yep, all kinds of fruits and grapes. Hey, how about plywood people used to build? Yep, all that's imported. It comes in and it could stop if a strike happens on October the 1st. Now, what do the longshoremen want? Well, they want a pay raise of 70%. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Are they going to get it? I don't know. But a big pay raise like that, or frankly any pay raise in a very large amount of money, could ultimately create more inflation in the United States. Why? Well, if products cost more to have imported and more to unloaded, those costs are going to be passed along to you and me. That's what we're looking at. Longshoremen are saying, hey, inflation in America has gone bad. We want our raise. And they're going to say, we're going to strike if we don't get it. So, could that very well happen? The answer is yes. The longshoremen on the West Coast went on strike and they got a 32% raise. So, everything is going up and inflation will continue, folks, and you'll be paying more. Now, if you're a fan of bananas, well, the Dole Company and the banana growers, well, they bring in bananas and you may not see bananas. And if you do see them, they're going to cost you a boatload. A lot more money for all the fruits and vegetables and things that are imported. And if it's on strike, you may see the grocery shelves looking pretty doggone bare. It's what could happen if the longshoremen do not agree to a new contract, wanting a whole lot more money. And will they get it? I have no idea. Just telling you what you could expect. So if the shelves dry up and there's nothing there, and you can't build anything because there's no plywood, it's all based on imports. And the longshoremen right now control the radio, as they say. That's what's happening. Let's see what happens. We will know sooner or later because October is drawing pretty doggone close, and it could end up in a very bad situation. That's all I have for you for right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
Way back in 1946, a gentleman by the name of Earl Tupper, now he was a chemist, mixed together some stuff, and he said, hey, I think I can make something out of this. And he did. He made something called Tupperware. Now, who doesn't remember Tupperware? If you grew up in the 60s and 70s, well, you knew what Tupperware was because virtually every woman, probably in America, owned Tupperware. And the way they got Tupperware was interesting enough. They would go to Tupperware parties. And there, ladies would sit around. There would be the show hostess, and she would show all these different varieties of Tupperware that you could buy. And she would provide food to eat and beverage for the ladies to beverage on. And enough beverage in them, they'd buy a lot of Tupperware, and they did. Everybody had Tupperware, whether it's a canister, whether it was bowls, whatever you could possibly think of, people bought it. Well, trouble was, manufacturers started figuring out, rather than putting stuff in glass jars, let's do like the Tupperware guy did and put them in plastic. Oh, Miracle Whip in a plastic tub, your margarine in a plastic tub. Heck, everything comes in a plastic tub nowadays. Go into somebody's refrigerator and you look for something. Oh, there's margarine. Open it up. It's baked beans. Not what you thought it was. You got to go through about 10 other things, figuring out where the butter is. Well, unfortunately for the Tupperware folks, they've had to file bankruptcy. Yes, they have gone under. And they've got assets somewhere in the range of $500 million to $1 billion. It's a pretty good size. But they have liabilities ranging anywhere from $1 billion to $10 billion. And they owe somewhere from around 50,000 to up to 100,000 people. They're in deep trouble because nobody's buying Tupperware like they used to. Hey, now when you got a butter tub, you can use that. That's just how it works out. So, Tupperware is looking to go bankrupt. Now, are they going to try to stay in business? The word is yes, they're going to sell online like everybody else is doing. And where you can order something you want online, they'll ship it to you. Don't be surprised if you see it on Amazon, too. It wouldn't surprise me. There's just one company that's going under. Another company you might think about, well, Big Lots. Big Lots is also closing the doors, taking up their carpet and leaving. Why? Well, people don't like Big Lots. And they're not buying stuff there. Obviously, the overhead is costing them too much. Many other places buy stuff. And frankly, online shipping is killing a lot of companies. Big Lots is one of those ones suffering too. So you lose Tupperware, you lose Big Lots. Who's next? Well, the brick and mortar stores are going to be in trouble. One way, shape, or form, it's coming up that way. You hate to admit it, but the days of online shopping are now becoming pretty much standard for everybody in America. That's what we do, and that's how we shop. Just thought I'd pass that along to you. Something to know. Tupperware, out of business. And so is Big Lots. Who's next? Only time will tell. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Let me ask you a question. How much do you have saved up for your retirement? Now, retirement, everybody thinks about, you got to retire. You want to live the good life. But, many people are really not doing that. And according to the financial services company, Northwestern Mutual Financial Planning and Life Insurance, Northwestern Mutual, they're saying that today, in today's world, the amount of money that you have to have available for your retirement is, are you ready? $1.5 million. That's in order to live comfortably, according to the information that they put out by this Northwestern Mutual. So that's what the average adult has to have. It says a 2024 study, they said adults believe they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably. Well, somebody better be able to define the word comfortably to me. I don't know many people, I don't know of anybody who's got a retirement savings of $1.5 million. but they say the projected number has gone down, or rather has gone up, rather. That money that you got to have in your savings account has gone up from 951,000 in 2020 up to $1.4 million now. Apparently inflation has kicked in and your money isn't worth that much anymore. So the problem is this: how much do adults save for retirement? Do you have $1.5 million in your account? The average person doesn't. And the problem here lies, what are you going to live on when you retire? Everybody says, well, Social Security. Yeah, but you don't make as much of Social Security as you think. Here's something to know that someone told me a long time ago. Financial person. She said, hey, do not start your Social Security at age 62. Legally, you can. But she said, don't do it. She said, for every year that you delay your taking Social Security, the amount of money you get goes up by 8%. 8%. I got to thinking about that. Well, 8%. So in my particular case, I waited until I was 67 before I applied for Social Security, knowing that it went up 8% every year, or 8% every year that I didn't apply for it. So it helped me out. But Social Security for most folks is not enough. Do you have a pension from your work? But do you have $1.5 million in background savings? I don't think the American public has that. Right now, the biggest thing that people have is debt, and more people are going into bigger and bigger credit card debt every single day. As a matter of fact, the amount of the debt that people have in America is over $1 trillion, and it's getting worse every day. That's where it's going, folks. But now the financial people are saying you got to have a $1.5 million reserve to live comfortably. I'm not quite sure, like I said, what comfortably actually means. Define it, okay? What, living in a penthouse? Living in the Riviera? I don't know. Do I think people can live on less? Well, I know I do. But something to think about, that now, gee whiz, if you don't have $1.5 million, you ain't going to be living comfortably. That's what the big financial people say. I'm not inclined to agree, but I thought pass it along to you so you know what you've got to do to survive when you get old. That's all I have for you right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
Indiana State Representative Bob Morris, a gentleman from Fort Wayne who I think owns a bunch of health food shops, has come up with a rather novel idea he's promoting involving education for students here in the state of Indiana. And here's what he's saying. He's saying, look, we got a lot of kids in school who don't really want to be in school, don't like being in school, and definitely are not going to be college material. But they have interests. They have things they want to learn. He said, why don't we do this? Why don't we do like we did back in the old days of the 60s, where we had crafts and things they could learn? They used to have auto shop and wood shop and metal shop. Those things used to exist in schools back in the old days. Now, they still have it here in Fort Wayne, the Anthos Center. They do specialized things, automobiles and those kind of things. But he's saying, why not do it this way? Kid goes to school half a day, and the other half a day goes to the Anthos Center, learns a craft, learns a trade. Because these kids need to learn something, and something they want to do, and something they enjoy doing. Because not everybody is cut out to go to college. Sorry. You know, maybe 25, 40%, who knows? But the vast majority of people do not need college and don't have to go to college. And I'll tell you what, there's some people out there earning a whole lot of money who have no college degree. Ask an electrician, ask a plumber. Yeah, they'll tell you how much they earn. Ask an auto mechanic. So, Bob Morris, man's got a pretty good point. Let's consider this. Putting in those kind of trades available for kids who just are going to graduate from high school, that's fine. Let them learn something. After they get out of school, if they want to go into places like Ivy Tech to get certified and become a certified mechanic, believe me, those mechanics make pretty good money. Or those kind of things are available. You know, craftsmen, woodsmen, woodworking, HVAC, all those things are available at teaching colleges like Ivy Tech. Things kids can learn. So maybe we ought to use the high schools to say, okay, you spend half the day in high school getting your degree, and the other half you learn a trade. Wouldn't that be a better use of what our schools are there for? I'm just saying, I'm saying that because, yes, I've gone to college, that's fine. But I know people that have no business being in college, and I've seen people drop out of college because they're going, why are we doing this? Learn a craft, learn a trade, learn something that you can use your hands, and it's good for the rest of your life. You make a lot more money than a lot of college grads do. I know some college grads that are tending bar. Yeah, they got a college degree, but it ain't worth crap. So think about learning that. Think about what Bob Morris says. May not be a bad idea. May not be a bad idea at all. Something the kids can learn. Half a day in school, half a day in the class in the shop area. Learn something, probably good for you. It's my thought on it. Just thought I'd pass it along to you. That's all I have for right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
I don't know if you realize it, that roughly 57% of all the overseas goods that come into the United States, things that we use on a regular basis, you see those great big giant containers, stacked up on boats coming across the pond. Well, 57% of those go through the state of California. That's right. California has the number one place where stuff comes in from Asia, just pretty much everything you can think of. But there's a problem. You see, the state of California has just passed a law, and that law says if you are a big trucking company and you have more than 50 vehicles, and most big trucking companies do, obviously, and you put more than 1 day coming into California to collect those big giant containers off of the boats and bring them back to states everywhere in the United States, from sea to shining sea, well, guess what? According to California, in 2025, that truck that comes into California to offload all those big giant carrier crates has to be electric. You heard me right. California says that in 2025, trucking companies, regardless of whether they're in California or not, if they come into California and they've got more than 50 trucks in their entire corporation, that those trucks coming in have to be electric trucks. Now, 24 states have sent in letters to the Environmental Protection Commission, the EPA, and said, hey, this ain't going to work. This is a bad plan. And frankly, since electricity has proved out to be a very bad plan, even the major industries, the Fords, the Chevys, what have you, General Motors, are all saying, hey, electricity don't work, and it's scaled it back. Well, that law is still going into effect in California, and they want that changed. You don't want one state directing everything that happens, and that's what California is attempting to do here in the United States. They want to be able to say every state has to follow their edict. Now, as you know, California is now requiring manufacturers of gas stoves to put a label, a warning label, in a prominent location on gas stoves starting next year. That's a California law that will probably end up being for every single gas stove sold in the United States. They'll put it on all of them because California says you have to. A lot of things that California does, the rest of the nation has to end up doing because, well, most of the goods and products sold are sold in California. That being said, now we're going to find out if the EPA is going to tell California you cannot mandate trucking companies have to have electric vehicles if they come into your state to offload carriers off the big boats. Just saying, it's something you should know, and you might want to contact the EPA and say, hey, bad plan, because if it does, it's going to raise the cost of products that you get massively. You think the recession of 2020 or 21, when the inflation shot up, was bad? This will be even worse. Just saying, what's coming up won't be a good plan, folks. Tell California no to electric trucks in their state from your state. That's what they want. That's all I got for right now, folks. Hope you're having a good one. See ya.
Coming up next.
Recently I have seen more and more stories about athletes or celebrities endorsing this person or that person. And frankly, between you and me, I happen to be sick of it. Do I care what some athlete says or some big Hollywood starlet says about somebody in the political world? No, I don't. It doesn't matter to me. The only thing that matters to me is what I happen to believe, not necessarily what some star tells me, because I don't think they know what the hell they're saying anyway. That's my opinion. But recently, a writer for the new USA Today, her name is Nancy Armour, she has got her panties in a wad because she went to Caitlin Clark and Patrick Mahomes and wanted to know who they were supporting in the presidential election. Political activism, if you will. Well, neither of them said they supported anybody or weren't going to announce it. And she said, oh my God, that's like Michael Jordan stuff back in the old days. Well, if you don't remember this, Michael Jordan says, I don't really care because people buy my sneakers. People on both sides buy my sneakers. And if I get so crazy as to say I'm endorsing one person over someone else, the other side may say, I'm not buying your sneakers. Michael Jordan was smart. Nancy Armour from USA Today is angry about the fact that she could not bully, and I use that term honestly, she could not bully Caitlin Clark or Patrick Mahomes into saying who they're going to support. She said athletes must have political activism. No, they don't. They're athletes. Let them play their sport and do what they do. It's none of our business, nor Nancy Armour's business, as to who these people support, or frankly, who celebrities support. I don't really care. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean a hill of beans to me. The only person who matters that about what I support is me, because I'm the one voting. I'm the one that's got to determine, hey, am I going to live with this or am I not going to live with it? And when you have athletes and certain sports people saying, I'm leaving the country, and we've heard that from celebrities. Well, if so-and-so gets elected, I'm leaving the country. You know what happens? That person gets elected and they never leave. It's BS, folks. Don't buy any of it. And Ms. Armour from USA Today, pack sand, sweetie. These people don't want to talk about it because they don't care. It's their call, their private business. Shut up, go away, and go write your column. Just my opinion. Yes, I may have worded things a bit strongly, and for that I apologize. But the truth is the truth. Who you support is your call. And athletes should not be forced to say who they support. Because after all, like Taylor Swift, didn't she just come out and endorse one candidate? I'm guessing that some of the folks on the other side are going to say, I ain't spending money for her ticket. Michael Jordan was right. People on both sides buy his tennis shoes. Don't mess up a good thing. Just my thought. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you know the Fort Wayne Komets have announced they're changing stations. Yeah, they've been with WOWO since 1952, but times have changed, things have changed, formats have changed, powers have changed, and methods of transmission have changed as well. Allow me to explain. Well, back in the old days when the Komets were on WOWO was a 50,000 watt clear channel radio station. You could hear it from here and there and everywhere around the world. Clear channel, 50,000 watts. Well, then back in the early 90s, they were forced to cut their power back from 50,000 watts to 10,000 watts, and at night they had to aim their signal to the southwest, which meant a lot of folks around the Fort Wayne area, you go 30 miles, you couldn't hear anything. WOWO just wasn't there anymore like it used to be. That happened. But there's not much you could do about that. But WOWO still had a good signal. They still had people listening. They still had Bob Chase as the sports director for WOWO, and Chaser was the voice of the Komets. Komets got great coverage on WOWO back at the time, but obviously Chaser passed away too. Things changed at WOWO. The formatting changed a little bit, and frankly, their only real live person they have, and I hate to say live, but in-studio person, who's right here in Fort Wayne, is Kayla Blakesley in the morning. And she does a heck of a good job. She's very good at what she does. And their format is kind of get you the news, get you the weather, get you the traffic. Sports, a little bit of that, but not near what they did. And there is no more sports talk like there used to be. Back in the old days when you had Art and Dean Pantazzi and Dean McNeil and all the other sports people, the Chaser and all they would talk about sports every single night. They don't do that anymore. Things have changed. Times have changed. And it was decided that, hey, Scott Sproat and the Franke family decided, maybe we better take a look at something else. So they looked at WXKE. Now, XKE used to be Rock 104 back in the old days, of 106.3, I think it was. They're done now like 96.3. They made a change because Adams Radio came in 2014, bought a bunch of stations, one where I was working, WGL at the time, and changed formats and made station changes, and swapped, and did all sorts of stuff, swapped frequencies. Well, WXKE is now down at 96.3. But one of the things they're doing pretty cool is they are transmitting their signal via the internet. It's called streaming. They are streaming full time. So their signal is not just going out over the air on the FM signal, it's going out through the internet. And that's the thing that the comments are going, hey, more and more people are getting the internet nowadays. That's where they're getting their listening to. That's where they're hooking in their computer to. And frankly, you get your TV now through the internet. You don't do it on satellite anymore. It's changed. And they want to go with a different demographic. And as classic rock, WXKE is a classic rock station. They want to get to a younger demo and get those people coming into the Coliseum, because the folks inside the Coliseum now, let's be honest, they're getting up there in years. And they won't be around forever. And the Comets want to get somebody, they can say, hey, we got somebody in here. We got younger folks coming in. That's what they want. And XKE has got live voices throughout the day. You got Doc West, you got J.J. Fabini, who I worked under. He's a good guy. They've got a whole bunch of folks, local folks, believe it or not, and Jack Hammer. One of the other guys. I've known these guys for a long time. They're good people. They're on the air full time. They are personalities in Fort Wayne. So the decision was made by the Franke family and Mr. Sproat that, hey, let's take it over to the XKE. Let's see how it works out. Hopefully it's going to be a great move for them. And I feel bad for the folks at WOWO, but understand, WOWO's got their own thing they got to deal with. They are working to get information to you, the folks. They've got their sports stations. You want to listen to Notre Dame football or IU or what have you. They program stuff. It's different now. Things have changed, America. Things have changed a lot. So congratulations to WBTU and to WOWO. Hey, keep doing what you're doing. You're still number one, and you're good at what you're doing. That's all I have for right now. Just wanted to give you my take, my feeling, my opinion on why the Comets went from WOWO to WBT or WXKE. Even I said BTU. Sorry, my error. That's all I got for you right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, if you live in a neighborhood where that little truck comes running around, that Grumman post office truck everybody sees, person driving around with the steering wheel on the wrong side, we all know what we're talking about. Well, it turns out those trucks were built back in 1987. You heard me right, 1987. Now, do those things, are they still good? Well, no, they were only designed to last for like 25 years. Been over 25 years. Well, the Postal Service is now introducing a brand new vehicle. Just come out, some of the locations are getting it. It looks vastly different than that one that you see currently around your neighborhood. It's got a big high roof on it so the person working in there can get up, walk around inside the back of the truck, pick up the mail, whatever they need to do, delivering packages. Because most of the stuff the post office delivers nowadays is actually packages. And it has all the latest conveniences. Anti-lock brakes, it has all the special, mirrors, cameras, 360-degree cameras. And most of all, it has the one thing that the postal workers absolutely love. You see, in the current Grumman, the only thing they had to keep them cool in the summertime, whether on the desert or in the humid Florida or up here in Indiana, is a little fan. That's it. It's the only thing they had to keep them cool. And if you think they're staying cool in those vehicles on the steering wheel on the wrong side, driving from house to house and have people honking at them and everything else, they ain't staying cool. But now the new vehicles, they have air conditioning. That's right. Now, post office is spending about $60 billion, and they're going to have thousands of these trucks. Most of them, I can tell you, are electric. There's a certain small portion of them, or a certain percentage, I don't know what the percentage is, but are still gas-powered. But most of them are electric, so if you're worried about the environment and the weather, whatever, world weather conditions, they're electric. Of course, you got to figure out where they're getting their power from. That's another story. But that being said, the new vehicles are coming, and the postal workers through your union are ecstatic over getting these new trucks. Going to be easier to drive, a lot more comfortable, have all the safety features they need, everything they want, airbags, you name it, has got it, and air conditioning. Something new you should know about. You're going to be seeing them soon coming down your street, your neighborhood, brand new postal trucks, and it should make the people driving them a lot more pleasant, don't you think? Because they're going to have air conditioning, even if you don't. Just saying. That's all I got for you. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, the big thing about fall is people love fall because, well, the kids are back in school, right? But we like fall for one particular reason in America, because football. That's right, the college season starts up, the pro season starts up, and like I said, the kids are back at school. And from September through February, America watches television and the National Football League and college. Well, here's the deal. We just had the first weekend of pro football, NFL, and for the first time ever, 21 million viewers watched each game on average, for the most watched first weekend in the history of the NFL. First weekend, 21 million, average. Now, all told, 123 million people saw at least part of a game. And that's the biggest they've had since 2019. 123 million is roughly 36% of the nation. And the NFL says, hey, this is a pretty good deal we got going on here. Now, here's the thing that's happening. You know, you see ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. Well, they're all carrying games, right? But now you're noticing the Peacock Network. Oh, where can you get that? Well, you get that through the internet. You subscribe to that. Thursday Night Football, you want to watch that? Well, that's on Amazon. You want to subscribe to that? You can watch it on Amazon. Folks, that's what's coming. The NFL teams are going to realize down the road, eventually, if they set up their own channel on the internet, which they can do, because that's happening. Because I remember the old days, I used to be able to watch Chicago Cubs and WGN in Chicago. Well, now it's on the internet, and you got to buy a package with a special company. No longer on GN. That's what's happening with football, too, folks. May happen with the college games because of the SEC and the Big Ten and all that, what's going on with them. It's all about money. It's about greed. And these teams, if they figure they can get more money from you and me, they're going to do it. So enjoy it while you can. Enjoy the ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, whatever, their games. But be aware that sooner or later, the NBC Peacocks, the Amazon Primes, and whatever their own channels the individual teams want to set up to cover their games, and you pay, that's coming. Just want to give you the heads up on that so you know what's going on. Enjoy football. I mean, I enjoy football too. But it's all a matter about money and greed. And when teams think they can make a whole lot more money than other teams do because they've got the name, they're going to do it. Just telling you. That's my advice to you as a heads up. But that's all I've got for you right now. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy your football. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, many years ago, for those of you who remember, there used to be a restaurant at the Fort Wayne International Airport. I recall it because sometimes, folks would come out like on a Sunday morning and have breakfast or brunch at the Fort Wayne International just so they could sit near the windows that looked out over the tarmac, the runway, and the taxiway and see the airplanes landing. Now, if you didn't want to go and sit in the restaurant, you could go down, well, closer to the railroad tracks that crossed over near the Air National Guard facility, And there was an area in the parking lot. It was all, the chain link fencing was right there, but you could pull up that chain link fencing right toward the end of the runway 23. And you could watch the planes approaching on runway 23, because back then, and as is today, the planes normally landed on runway 23. The reason is the prevailing wind comes from the southwest, so you fly from northeast to southwest to land into the wind. But talking about that restaurant, well, right now they're working on one calling the Hop River Brewing and Bonbons Cafe, or Bonbons Coffee, I'm sorry. So it's Hot River Brewing and Bonbons Coffee. So that's being rebuilt inside of the Fort Wayne International Airport Terminal. Right now they're saying it should be open in the month of October, which is fine, because if you got kids, one of the coolest things you can do is to take your kids out to the airport, into that restaurant, and sit there and watch the airplanes coming and going. If you want to put desire into a kid who sees that, he may sit there and look at it and say, you know, that's what I want to do. I remember that's sort of the things that I was around as a kid, and I was able to look at these and say, yeah, I wanted to fly. It's kind of how you learn things. You get a little inspiration when you're young. So yes, a restaurant is being built at Fort Wayne International. It's going to be called the Hop River Brewing and Bonbons Coffee. Don't know about Bonbons Coffee, but the Hop River Brewing, hey, they're going to have that at the airport, a restaurant. Works for me. New restaurant coming to the Fort Wayne International Airport, and it should be open probably sometime in October. We shall see. But my hat's off to the folks putting the restaurant in. Fort Wayne needs it. We had it a lot in the past, and now we're getting another one today. Fort Wayne is regrowing in ways that a lot of folks haven't seen. And I, for one, think it's a pretty doggone good thing. Downtown's growing. Now the airport is growing. Everything is growing. Fort Wayne is in a growth spurt. And I tell you what, you can't beat it. It's one of the best things happening we could see. That's all I got for right now. See ya.
Coming up next.
Well, I know you're probably waiting for it. November the 3rd, 2 a.m., we go back to standard time. That's right, daylight saving time ends. I know it's early to bring it up. It's not till November, but hey, let's talk about it right now. We might as well get it out of the way, because it's something we've been dealing with for years. I mean, it goes back to the old wartime. I mean, this is a giant mess. We've tried every idea, and everybody says, well, let's be on standard time, let's be on Eastern time. Everybody fights about that. Nothing gets solved. We're just stuck with the same thing every year. Every year we got to worry about it and say, okay, well, gee, we got to set all of our clocks back or forward or whatever. Let's see, spring forward and fall back. Okay, so fall, November the 3rd, 2 a.m., we fall back, and you set your clocks back. Problem with that is you got to set every clock in your household. You know, and it's a giant pain. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I got clocks to set back. Then you got to figure out, how do I set the VCR back? How do I set the TV time back? Yeah, that's always good. Oh, and then the timer for your security system, timer for your air conditioning system. You know, you need your kids to do all this stuff, but if your kids are gone, you got to do it yourself. Not too much fun. So I'm just saying, does America really need daylight saving time? Well, they say, well, daylight saving time, it makes the day longer. No, the day's not longer. You just move when the sun sets. Okay? Yes, in daylight saving, the sun lasts longer. You know, after work, you get off, play 9 holes, if you're a golfer. You can maybe head over to the shooting range and put a box of ammo down range, whatever. I mean, it works. It's daylight saving. And ranges like the one I work on, we have different times, whether it's daylight saving time or standard time. So daylight saving time, yeah, we're open at 10 o'clock, 10:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. But when the standard time comes around, we'll open at 10 o'clock in the morning and close at 5 o'clock because it gets dark early. That's what happens on standard time. So that's what we're dealing with, folks. Every summer, every spring, it's spring ahead, fall back. November 3rd, 2 a.m., it's fall back time. That's what we're dealing with daylight saving time. Yes, there are states that don't have it. Arizona and Hawaii laugh at us because they don't practice daylight saving time. And we have people doing standard time in this state. You go up to the northwest, the southwest, and they're on central time. It's just the way this weird state is.
Will we ever change? I doubt it. We are who we are. We're Hoosiers. Got to live with that and figure out we do some dumb stuff, but, well, daylight saving time, I guess we keep doing it. That's all I have for you. See ya.
Well, that does it for today's edition of the Pat White Show. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on social media for the latest Pat White Show for all the news and updates. And stay tuned for brand new episodes of the Pat White Show coming real soon. Like what you're hearing? Make sure you don't miss an episode by following the Pat White Show on Spotify. Just search for the Pat White Show, hit follow, and get ready for insightful conversations delivered straight to your Spotify feed. If you enjoy watching podcasts as much as listening to them, good news! The Pat White Show is also on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel now for visual content, behind-the-scenes footage, and full podcast experience. Find us on YouTube at the Pat White Show channel.
Well, aside from the fact that it is now fall is approaching, guess what else we're into? Another season. It's called the strike season. That's exactly what's happening. Looks like some of the big industries are going on strike. The biggest one, obviously, is the Boeing industry. People make the planes, make the ones with the doors that fall off, the spacecraft that can't bring anybody back in. Yeah, that's the company. Well, the machinists have gone on strike saying, hey, the deal Boeing is offering 25% rate increase for the machinist. And the employees said, no, I ain't taking it. They said, we want 40% and we want all the pension returned. Whatever those happen to be, that's what they want. So they are striking, and it isn't just affecting the Boeing company. It affects all the other properties, all the other companies that provide services and goods to Boeing. You know, they don't make everything on the airplane. They bring, it's just in time. They get this from this company, this from another company. And this is going to put Boeing in a stop position, especially when they're working on a brand new aircraft getting ready to replace the 757. And I think it's called the 797, if memory serves me right. So Boeing is one on strike right now, but also some of the airlines are on strike. Flight attendants for one of the major airlines, they're going on strike also, saying, hey, you're giving us a 20% raise, but ain't enough. Now, why is everybody striking? Well, it's simple enough. When the inflation went up 4 years ago, and the money, your money, started to become worth less, the people in the airline industry, the flight attendants, the Boeing folks, they said, hey, wait a minute. Our money is even worth less now than 4 years ago. They want it made up. This is just the tip of the iceberg. More of this is going to be coming down the pipe as more and more organizations, unions, and companies, they're going to say, hey, they're striking over there. We're going to strike too because we want to get made up for what happened because of the inflation. Now everybody said, well, the Fed is going to lower the interest rate. And they may, quarter point. I mean, they could do it a half point, don't know what they're going to do, but whatever they decide to do, it's not going to make up for the loss of the value of the dollar. That has occurred. That's why everything is skyrocketed up in inflation, because the dollar is worth less. That's the problem, folks. That debt reduction act that Kamala Harris signed as the tiebreaker put $2.5 trillion into the money, into the place where we don't need any more money. I mean, your dollar's worth less. Something you need to know about economics, how it works. More strikes are coming, folks. Just get ready. Boeing, airlines, the tip of the iceberg. More is coming. That's all I got for you right now. Stay tuned, because more is going to happen. That's it for now. See ya.